15 reports. One, two, what? Go back to your house. I'm going home. You don't know? My home? Yes, I know it's your home. That's why I'm not taking you to jail right now. Because you know who I am? Because I know who you are. It's not from that.
All right, let's stop it right there.
Sure.
One of the things that has come up several times from the original video I posted from your video on my channel, right? Edited version, is people are asking, there had to be some previous something going on for this cop to have the hots for you, all right? Or to have it out for you. And I know we've already talked about it, but kind of give a brief view of what happened previously. I know the story, do it your own way though.
Sure. So it was about 10 years ago, because my wife, who's the one in red right there, she was pregnant with our first daughter, who's now 10. So we live next to a park that has a baseball field, and there's some adults there playing on the youth baseball field. And when they do, my yard is just beyond the right field fence. So what they do is they hit home runs all afternoon, and then they come to pick them up. And so I went to my back door. You know, it was just mid-afternoon. I was working at home that day, and my dogs wanted to be let out into the backyard. And so I opened the door and let them out. And when they did, it just both, so I have two boxers, and they both just bolted out the door unusually fast. So I looked up, and there's a man in the center of my yard with a bucket picking up baseballs that they'd been hitting there all afternoon. So I went trying to catch the dogs before they get to the guy, and just for 5 or 6 seconds, the dogs and the man were all out of my view behind the shed. And when I get there, one of the dogs is lying unconscious, and the man's holding a piece of firewood. So I went berserk a little bit, just going, what the hell did you do? Da, da. And I get the license plate number of the car that the three guys then left in, and I called the police. And so then Officer Linger is the one that responded, and he came and he actually spoke to them before he talked to me and said, there's no, and the guy told more or less the same story. His only difference was that he didn't hit the dog. The dog passed out when he picked up the piece of firewood, just out of fear, he thought. But other than that, our stories were the same. And I said, at the very least, he was trespassing, even if he didn't hit the dog. And Linger kept telling me, well, not if you live next to a park. It's not trespassing if you live next to a park. And I kept going, yes, it is. And kind of got a little bit of a heated argument over the issue. But he refused to take a report on the basis that it's not trespassing if you live next to a park. And so my wife, a few days later, went to talk to the prosecutor, and not to file a complaint, but just to say, what can we do to keep strangers out of our yard? We're about to have a kid, and, how do we keep strangers from coming in and hitting our kids with a piece of firewood? And so the prosecutor called Linger into the office and kind of read him the riot act, telling him that it's not his job to decide when and when not to take a report, that he needs to always take a report and then let her decide whether or not they're going to prosecute it. So that's kind of the previous history I have with Linger, and I wouldn't have even known he was the same officer that had responded a decade ago, other than after he arrested me, he was talking about it when I was in the back of the car, saying that I'm a real hothead, we know you've got a temper, you had that whole thing with the baseball players. So that's kind of the previous history with.
So he was upset with you because he kind of got read the riot act for not doing his job right.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to skip the part in the PD here and go to this.
My home? Yes, I know it's your home. That's why I'm not taking you to jail right now. Because you know who I am? Because I know who you are. Who am I? Go to your house, sir. All right, Officer Linger? Yes, it is. Go to your house. Great. And what's your name?
Nikolai.
Okay, I tell you what. No, you know what?
So that to me, that shows that he had it out for you already. Right.
Right.
But
right.
So you are not an activist as far as, like, you're not a First Amendment activist, and you were really not active in your community being an activist until after this. Am I
Right.
Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your activism basically has been this story and trying to get that community to do more with policing their police.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I've been lobbying the city council and the mayor to start a citizens oversight committee. And recently, so there's 3 communities right on top of each other here, and we share what they call a fire district, so that there's one fire department handling it all, and they kind of oversee each other. And the police departments, all 3 of them, already call each other for backup when anything goes on. And so the other 2 police departments are interested in having a citizen oversight committee and are very open to it and interested, and both the chiefs have signed on to the idea. But Waterville refuses to and says they'll never do it, and that their union won't allow them to do it. So,
Well, unions is another story for another day. I could talk all day about this damn police.
Right.
But so anyway, I wanted to make sure that everybody understood you're not a regular activist. You're not one of us. You
Right.
are somebody that got in a situation and was treated extremely badly, and I could probably find some more choice words to use, but I'm not going to do that here.
right.
So you are a photographer. That's what you do.
Yep.
You were out there that day doing what?
Just shooting landscapes. If you're interested, you can go to my website. It's just johnwalzphoto.com. I've got a whole gallery there of landscapes that I do. I do, urban and suburban landscapes. I also do photo documentary work and weddings and, portraits and kind of a lot of things. But that was just it. That I'd gone to watch a football game at a restaurant nearby. And so just walking home, it's just a couple blocks, and I really noticed how pretty the light was that day, and said, you know what, I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab my Noblex camera and a couple rolls of color film, and I'm just going to go walk around for 15 minutes before I watch the 4 o'clock football games. And that was really my plan, just to walk around. And that camera only gets 6 pictures on a roll, so I felt like I could burn up 2 rolls, just 12 pictures in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, and then I'd come watch the other games. That's my plan.
All right, so let's develop the story. What happened to have the police called? Right.
So I've got a new neighbor who lives across the street, and he came. They were having a birthday party for like his 6-year-old daughter, I think, 5 or 6-year-old daughter. And he and a buddy, apparently they'd been drinking, and they just saw me walking by with a camera, and immediately came out and stopped me and said, what are you making pictures of? Are you making pictures of us? And I said to him, listen, I'm not making any pictures of you. I'm not making any pictures of your daughter. And I just want to be left alone. And he said, well, give me your camera so that I can delete the pictures I don't like. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And he said, if you don't give me that camera, I'm going to call the police. And I said, you do what you've got to do. And I walked away. And he called the police. And then they came with 2 cars, one from each direction, so that they could kind of corner me in. And yeah.
And then that's where we see what just happened.
Right. And then Officer Linger, he didn't turn on his body camera right off, so you don't get it. But even the guy that called the police, I've interviewed him, and there's a video of it on my channel. I mean, he'll tell you the first thing that Linger did was get out of his car and, start cussing at me, and, got out of his car hot and angry already. So.
Yeah, which seems like, I don't know if it had to do with what kind of phone call he got, or if he just, all right, we got this guy. This guy got me in trouble a while back, and now I got him. I don't know what the deal is there, but all right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who really knows what's in somebody else's head? You just kind of got to guess at it by their actions and knowledge of what's going on. So
right.
I'm going to skip over here a little bit. All right. This is in the jail. And I'm playing this. I want people to understand what they did to you. Now, did they ever give you any reason why they stripped you down?
No, there's actually the one guy, he's the head of internal affairs, says it was because I was combative. So, but
Well,
it's weird. All the papers say uncooperative. So I was either uncooperative or combative. There's actually a video, another video on my channel that talks about it. I wouldn't open my phone for them. So they were all over me trying to force my thumb onto my phone for, I have no idea why. If they just wanted to mess with my Facebook or who knows. But that was it, is I wouldn't let them into my phone.
They might have wanted to delete the video of you, of the arrest.
Maybe.
But now, I want everybody to know this video I've got here is just part of what's going on. There's more videos on your channel. And
Right.
I'll put up a link, you know, we'll let everybody know how to find that stuff. But there's actually video of you being in, I guess, in the main area, the public area, when they brought you in, where they jumped on you. And
Right.
I guess that's where they were trying to get you to open your camera and stuff. I don't
Right,
remember.
over the phone, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember if that part was in this.
No, it's not. It's a separate video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to keep this video specifically to what happened in Waterville and with the Waterville Police Department.
Yeah.
What happened at the jail, it's actually overseen by the Sheriff's Department. So I think a lot of what happened at the jail is because Officer Linger stayed there and really played up the whole, this guy was at this kid's birthday party and he wouldn't leave the birthday party. And, you know, he was telling this kind of fanciful story of, I was drunk at this kid's birthday party and wouldn't leave. You know?
Well, it sounds like the people that are been on my channel already have seen the retaliation that happens, like Leon Valley. You know,
Right.
they trump up all kinds of shit. And say anything, things that absolutely never happened. How many hours were you in that jail?
I was there so I was arrested just after 4. And I think I was released around 3 or 4 in the morning. So, but they actually kept me in the back of the police car for, I think, 3 hours. I didn't actually get to the jail till about 7 p.m. or 7:30. So.
And while you were there, you were in that jail cell the whole time, naked, handcuffed.
So they came in. I was naked and handcuffed for about 90 minutes. And then they came in and took the handcuffs off, and I was able to put on a jumpsuit. And then they came in about 5-10 minutes later and put me back in the handcuffs again.
Okay. Because I think that part was not very covered in mine. I just put up the video. I didn't go into detail, and that's why we're doing what we're doing tonight, to go into more detail. You were in there for about 90 minutes naked, which is BS in the first place. There's no excuse for that kind of stuff. I'm trying not to get pissed again because going back through it makes me mad. You know,
No, it does.
There's no freaking reason for any police department to do this kind of stuff. All right, it's absolutely ridiculous. I can't think of any reason why they would strip somebody. I don't care if they were combative and you weren't. I don't care
Right.
what it is. I mean,
Right.
There's no reason for it.
Right. It's a matter of them doling out punishment, which isn't their job, of them. But it's a way to show power, to show dominance. Yeah, I think this whole thing is about them wanting to show dominance. And, it's because my wife pushed back by complaining to the prosecutor, that makes them then have to arrest me. And the fact that I won't open my phone, then they have to push back by making me stand naked. And I won't, when I refused to plead guilty is then when they started sitting outside my house and all that business. Because they expect everybody to plead guilty.
Well, let's play a little bit more of this and we'll go on.
Sure.
All right, this is him in, I guess, the harassment stage.
Yeah.
This is part of it.
Yeah, and this sort of thing was going on. They actually were sitting on this little piece of grass. I guess you can't see where I'm pointing at my computer, but they would just sit right at the corner of my yard sometimes for a half hour, 40 minutes, an hour at a time, and just sit there. I guess just to let me know they're watching.
Yeah, that's part of the intimidation.
Right.
They just kind of sit around, let you know they're there, let you think about it. Don't forget, we're around, we're watching you,
Right.
We want you. I'm skipping through some of this.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I want to remind everybody, you can find this video on my channel, and you can find more on his channel, and I'll put up links to everything. And I'll probably just put up a link to your channel and let them come find the videos they want, because you've got more than this video.
Right.
You've got a video of the video where the police officer Linger was kind of out of control during the hearing or meeting about his harassment toward you.
Yeah, it's funny. He opened up a Facebook page just to answer questions about my Facebook page. And on it, he acknowledges that he suffers from depression and PTSD, and that sometimes his medications don't work and his behavior gets a little erratic. So
yeah, and that's part of the problem I have. You should not be a cop if you've got that kind of problem. I'm sorry. There's some problems that people have that should omit them from being certain kind of, carrying a gun, being as a police officer. If put them in the jail and let them be a clerk, or let them be at the desk or something, but nothing that has anything to where they can be shooting, beating, tasing, arresting.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, I have sympathy for people that suffer from mental illness, whether it's PTSD, depression, whatever it is. But
I
you
know
can't
about
give them
that kind of
guns.
stuff. Yeah. I know about that kind. I've got friends, I understand all that. And sometimes I know some of the people a little hard to deal with. That's why I'm saying they can't be doing this kind of job.
Right. Yeah, because I think it's actually dangerous. I have no idea what happens when this is about 2 a.m. He's doing this in front of my house. I didn't spot it until I reviewed the footage the next day. But man, if I go out there and catch him in the act, I have no idea what he's going to do. I feel like he's doing it to bait me to come out of the house.
Yeah. Well, maybe what if you would have had to make a run someplace, go drive, get in your car and go someplace? Yeah. I hate to see what would have happened.
Yeah.
All right. So is there up to this point, is there anything you want to add?
No, well, actually, there's a couple other things. There was a night, and this is actually before we bought the security cameras and why we got the security cameras. My daughter and my wife were out in my car, and they came home, and they left the Kroger parking lot, which is about 3 miles from our house. And there was a cop parked at the gas station across the street. So he pulled out and followed them about halfway home. And then he turned off, and immediately a truck came up behind them really fast and followed them the rest of the way home. And when they came into the driveway, then the truck parked at the end of our driveway, and my wife starts getting out the groceries, and she sees the truck parked there. And we live at kind of right at a kind of a strange intersection, so it's not uncommon to go out and you see somebody just sitting there trying to figure out, because the GPS tells you a little different than it actually is there. And so we go out all the time and go, yeah, this is the street you're looking for. And she thought that's what's going on. So she starts walking out to this truck, and she gets about 15 feet away, and the dome lights come on, and she sees that it's Linger sitting in there. And she just lost her shit, trying to get my daughter in the house. She's just terrified of what the hell is this guy doing, following us home, parking here. And so that was on, I think, a Tuesday night. And by Friday, we'd installed the security cameras that are where we get, and I bought the cameras for my bike and bought dash cams for all the cars.
And at this point, it's we can already see it's when they're driving by your house and they're spotlighting your house, that's already bringing your family into it.
Right.
But that would be, now they're following your family around, scaring the shit out of them because he's mad at you.
Right.
Because you exposed his tyranny.
Right.
Right. And I'm getting mad. Yeah. Anyway.
Because after this bike thing that we're about to see, so he retired then the next day, and I had a neighbor who's on city council and kind of warned me, goes, this guy just retired, and there's rumors that he's coming after you. Okay, it was about 9 o'clock at night.
He just resigned. He retired.
Retired. He goes both ways.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that is, if he retired, hopefully that means he's not planning on becoming a police officer again.
Right. You hope.
Let's hope, yeah. But if he just resigned, that to me would say that he resigned because he wants to be a police officer again someplace else, which the way it turns out, he can do it. He can come out of retirement and be a police officer, but maybe he has plans on not being, which, well, let's all hope he doesn't. But,
yeah, I'm hoping kind of now that, if you Google his name, that this stuff starts to come up, and hopefully, if somebody's thinking about hiring him, that they see some of this.
Yeah. Well, not one of the people, but the person that I talked to you about might be joining us tonight in this. He would have been one of those people probably keeping track of him, or one of his friends would have been helping keeping track of him and see where, if he goes someplace else. But he couldn't make it tonight, so that's why we're here just together. But
anyway, but after this, and I heard that he was coming after me, we packed up our kids and our dogs and left the house. And we didn't come back for 10 days until the restraining order was in place. So the restraining order was then issued on a Friday, and we still didn't come back because I thought when he was served with the restraining order, it may make it worse. He may really lose his mind when he's served with the restraining order. So I waited another couple days and watched the cameras really carefully to see if he was going to observe the restraining order. And I hired a private security guard that drove my kids to and from school. And
this whole thing cost you what, about $20,000?
Yeah, about $20K. Yeah.
Right. And I want to put in a couple other things. Let's play this part, and then I'll get into the other part. And you can talk through this if you want.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say. It's him run. Yeah.
So he turns around and comes after you.
Right. And then he went and told the chief that I was harassing him, that I had come after him, that I had turned and was chasing him, and that he had done everything he could to get away from me. So then, the chief talked about it at the Public Safety Committee about what Linger had told him. But then the chief still refused to make a report of what Linger had told him, which, for months and months, I said, I want you to make a report. He waited until after all the hearings for the restraining order and everything were all over before he made any report of the incident. And when he did, he didn't put anything about Linger's story in there.
Right.
Because Linger told that before he knew there was a videotape. So was able to say, oh, this guy came after me and so on. And then you see the videotape and it's exactly the opposite.
Well, I personally think during this whole thing, he should have been charged with several different things. And
right.
He wasn't. And if I remember correctly, the date has passed where they could charge him with anything now. They
right.
played games and delayed things and did whatever they could to make sure that they got to that point.
Right. If they were going to charge him, it would have had to been by Wednesday, the 5th of December. So.
All right. And there's a lot of video of the chief trying to get around this and get around that and defend his police officer. And
right.
And now it comes to find out. I think the cop should have been fired and charges brought against him. The chief, at minimum, should have been charged.
Right.
But, there's probably an argument of conspiracy here to cover up what he did, where
right.
the chief could have been charged with that. Looks like there was a bunch of evidence withheld, which I don't think would have been withheld without the chief making sure
right.
that it was withheld.
Right.
But yet he still has his job. And I'm going to say this, and you correct me or explain it any way you want to. But he's going to retire at the end of this year sometime.
Right.
And he hasn't been fired. As best of my knowledge, nobody's even come down on him for screwing up.
Right.
But it sounds more like to me that he's being protected to get him through to his retirement. Now, if any of that's wrong or I missed anything, expand on it or whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't think there's any kind of real effort to protect him because there's nothing to protect him from. All the city council members are on his side. The mayor's on his side. So there's just this, as far as they're concerned, there's one lunatic who keeps posting videos and filing complaints, but that doesn't, it has no effect at all. I don't think he is laying awake at night going, man, I hope I make it to retirement before this guy posts more videos.
Well, he's not worried about it because he knows he's got them on his side. But
right.
my point is they shouldn't be on his side, and
right.
they shouldn't be ignoring this, and he should have been fired, and he should have a lot to worry about. They are protecting him by not doing anything as far as
right. Right, by just ignoring it. Right.
I mean, maybe in their mind they're not protecting him. Maybe they actually are stupid enough to think this is all okay, but it's not okay. And this is why police get away with what they get away with so much in this country, is because the people that should be holding them accountable don't give a shit or intentionally are protecting them.
Right. And I think, too, it doesn't help that he's out there actively telling people that, he's still telling the story that I was at this kid's birthday party and wouldn't leave, and just.
All right,
so,
well, let's touch on that real quick. I'll start to interrupt, but I want to get this part in before I forget. The guy that called you, he has come to you and apologized. Expand.
Right. So he came the very next day and apologized, said he was sorry, that he honestly thought it was illegal to make pictures on the street. He just didn't know. He's never dealt with it. He thought it was odd to see somebody walking down the street, and I'm kind of, when I'm making pictures, I walk around, I'm looking, like this, and I'm looking at trees, I'm looking at clouds, I'm looking at everything. So it may appear odd, and he thought it was illegal. And then he saw what happened to me and how just mean and brutal they were. And he really says he wasn't looking for that. He was looking for somebody to give him a better explanation of what I was doing. So yeah, he apologized several times, and he then at one of the times he came over, and we just are neighbors now and chat as neighbors do. And he was saying something one night. He goes, I'm still really sorry about that. And I said, I've been making videos about it. Would you mind sitting down for an interview and just let's talk about it so I can post it to my channel? And he said, yeah, I can be over in like half an hour. And I said, great. And so we set it up and interviewed him, and I kind of edited it down to a cohesive thing. But, he thinks the police were way out of line. He didn't want me to be arrested. He didn't, he feels awful about what happened. So, and admits that he was wrong. That he admits that his posture towards me when he came and talked to me before calling the police he was aggressive.
No, the main thing is, and we see this a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I'll say we, not you, but we as an activist in the First Amendment and Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, we want to educate a lot of those that we find that come to us and don't understand.
Right.
Including the police officers. There's so many people out there, and I don't know where it came from, that think videoing in public there's a problem, and it's
right.
not. It never has been. And the government says you see something, say something, and all these terrorists are running around the country, video it, all these different things that have happened. Bullshit. They're not out there videoing everything, looking for somebody to attack. Are there terrorists out there? Yes, domestic and foreign, doing some, really terrible things. But people out doing photography is God. When did photography start? Back in the 1800s, late 1800s or mid 1800s? I don't know exactly when it started. But when I was growing up, there were people out there taking pictures. They even had their little, remember the big video recorders that cost you an arm?
Oh, yeah.
And they're out there, and nobody gave a damn.
Right.
And this BS about there's something wrong about being out in public videoing.
Right.
Nobody even cared if you videoed their house. You walk by somebody's house and videotape this part of the house, that house, this block, that block, the park, whatever. Everybody would go, oh, let me get out of your way, so I don't hurt your shot.
Right.
Instead of 911, there was a terrorist loose.
You'd be surprised. I did a project with the Youth Foundation about 2 years ago where I was shooting all sorts of kids football, kids baseball, kids soccer, all that stuff so that they could use the photos for their promotions. And constantly parents saying, what are you making pictures of the baseball for? And I go, listen, it's a public baseball field. I happen to be working with the Youth Foundation, but it's none of your business. If your kid's going to play baseball at the park, I'm allowed to make pictures anyway.
But yet you see people around that football game or that baseball game with their kids or their grandkids or their families, friends' kids, and they're videoing. But if you stand across the street and do the same thing, there's got to be something wrong. Well, maybe you were just walking along, going someplace, and you said, "Man, let me take a little shot of these kids playing, football or something. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Look at all these people here."
Right.
Anyway, kind of getting off topic a little bit. But,
but just everybody thinks they're owed an explanation for what you're doing. And part of being a free country is if I'm not doing anything illegal and I'm not bothering anybody, I don't owe you an explanation.
yeah, and that's part of what, where I am and what I do. It's, I don't owe you an explanation. I don't answer to you. I don't even answer to my own parents or my own family if I don't feel like it. If I go out and do something and they want to know why I'm doing it, it's like, I don't think you understand. I don't think you really care. And this is going on in my mind.
Right.
And by the way, I don't have to tell you shit. I don't answer to you. I'm sorry, but I'm not that. I'm kind of a private person anyway, as far as what I do and why I do it. And if I don't want to tell you, if I wanted you to know, I would come to you and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. What do you think?" No, if I don't tell you what I'm doing, it's probably because I don't want you to know, and I just don't feel like telling you about it or explaining to myself. I don't explain myself to anybody unless I feel like it.
Right.
And that includes the cops. I won't even explain. There was a judge that I was involved with for a little while. He asked me why I was doing what I was doing, and Judge, I don't really think it's any of your business why I was doing what I was doing. Now, we weren't in court as under oath type of thing. He wanted to understand what I was doing, and I told him it's in a very nice way. It's none of your damn business what I'm doing.
Right.
Because I don't. The judge to me isn't shit. And nobody, no better, no worse than anybody else. The cops no better or no worse than anybody else, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that's just kind of the way I am. I've never been much for authority figures.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you some stories, but that's for other things. But anyway, let's see. What is next
so that's
here?
where Linger kind of loses his mind yelling.
And this was really hard to hear. And this is the part I was forgetting about that we talked about a while ago. I think I enhanced the video, but I'm going to leave this. If somebody wants to come do it, if I remember right, I enhanced the video as best I could, where you may have to put the headset on or turn the volume up or something to hear it. But so anyway, I think here is, it's not just this police officer, though. You were saying the other two municipalities that are kind of work together are pretty cool, if I remember right. But this sheriff's department is the one where those are all in the same county and they deal with this same sheriff's department.
Right.
Right. But that sheriff's department, that jail, has a very bad reputation that you told me.
Yeah. Yeah, a number of people have died in there under kind of suspicious circumstances that, really it just doesn't seem, people that are suicides and it just.
And it's not just every once in a while. It seems to be kind of a pattern, one or two a year or something like that.
Yeah, a couple every year it seems like,
So, I mean, I bet Linger knew that. And I bet he knew. Now, everybody, this is my conjecture. This is what I'm pulling out of this in my head, what I'm thinking. I think Linger knew that. I think he knew that you would be mistreated if he said the right kind of things to these people. He's been dealing with it for a long time, so he knows what's going to happen, I'm sure. So that was more retaliation.
Absolutely.
We talked for a long time last night, and there's probably some things that we talked about that I don't remember now. We talked for quite a while.
Right.
Is there anything else that you want to add to this that we haven't touched on yet?
Like I said, it's a multifaceted story, so there's always little things you kind of have to leave out to make it flow. But, I think one of the big things is a lot of people ask me, well, what happened afterwards? And you kind of go, that was it. After the restraining order, so this was a hearing to extend the restraining order, and we didn't win this hearing. So the restraining order only lasted the 4 months, but he, during that time, moved out of town, and I haven't seen him since. It seems like the other officers have been told to steer clear of me. There's one that is at the school in the morning when I drop off my kids, and if she can get the angle to flip me off without anybody else seeing, she still does it. But you know, it's
That was the one that was with you when you were arrested?
Yeah, yeah. It's just, you know, it's really the thing is, it's a really juvenile kind of stupid thing of her flipping me off or whatever. But at the same time, you're like, oh, so you're still not over this? You know, that we're not cool. We're not getting back to life as normal. You're still letting me know, you know, you're holding a grudge. So it's. And
it sounds like to me that by acting like that, she's still, if in the right circumstances, she'd probably do something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
if something came up and she could turn it into something worse against you, she probably would. It's my thing.
There's no doubt.
And again, everybody, this is my thinking. This is what I get from, you know, years of dealing with crooked police, all the videos, all the court dates, all the research, knowing quite a few police officers from the time we were growing up to the time now or recently, and knowing what kind of people they are and what kind of stories they've told me and what kind of things they do and how they think. I put all that together and I come up with my own thing, what I think, but it's just what I think. It's not necessarily true. I mean, I can't read what's in somebody else's mind, so I don't know, but I see it so often. I got to think that way. I can't help it. It's like, I'm sorry that I got to think all cops are bad. I got to treat them that way because they're not all bad in the sense that there's some pretty cool cops out there. But if you're a cool cop and you want to be a good cop and you don't turn in the bad cops and you don't stand up against what the bad cops do, you're a bad cop too. All right. But with that said, I can't help but make myself go, well, this is a good cop because he did something right. I saw him do something right. I saw him do it right. He treated people right. But that doesn't mean he is. There's probably other things over here that he didn't, but I got to treat him that way because it's just so widespread now. It's not, there's, 1% of are bad cops and they make us all look bad. No, it's a very high percentage of bad cops making the rest of them look bad.
Right. And I think part of it is that they cover for each other,
Exactly.
That I think the chief in his mind, when he's lying, when he's hiding evidence, that he feels like he's doing the moral thing. He's doing the right thing. That his morality.
He doesn't understand what morals are. But anyway.
Right. But no, I think that's his morality, that he can sleep well at night knowing he did the right thing by covering for these people. That,
people do.
That's the right thing.
Yeah, people do have a way of, convincing themselves it wasn't their fault, they're doing it right, so they can sleep at night, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
And I think that's why so many cops end up having drinking problems or mental issues like depression later on in their career, especially when they've been screwing people over for years and they start to maybe realize after all those years that, I screwed up a lot of people's lives and I did a lot of stupid things, And I think it comes back after a while to a lot of them. That's where a lot of that comes from. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not in their head. I don't know. I just think that way. But you tried to find a lawyer to help sue to
Right. So my lawyer right here, the bald black guy sitting next to me, he's with one of the biggest, kind of best known firms in Toledo. I spoke with him and kind of his boss, who has won, multi-million-dollar suits against, all sorts of different entities, and been around for a lot of years. And they just, I spoke mostly to them, but I did speak to one other lawyer too. And they just felt like there wasn't anything to sue for. You have to kind of prove damages.
I think you have proof of damages. Being in a police department, in a jail, false arrest, being jailed, knowing that it was bullshit, naked, handcuffed, embarrassed, humiliated. I think there's enough there, you know. But I don't know if that law firm has been involved in suing police before. But what I have found that local law groups do not like suing local police departments, even in big cities or fairly big cities. I don't know what the population of that area of Toledo is or that area is, but because of retaliation, because of loss of income, because there's so many people that believe in the police, all right? And
Right.
I think a lot of that is they just loss of income because they're afraid of, okay, well, we sued this police department for this, and now, you know, we're going to have to pay the price in the long term because of whatever. But I have found out to be true in a lot of places. Something here local going on, we had to go find a lawyer from a long ways away to take it on. And everybody knows what's going on that's used to watching my channel and what we've been doing. But I'm going to see if I can get you two together, you and that other lawyer.
Okay.
And I think I'm just going to let you, I'm going to get you the contact info and let you take care of it, because that way you show him that you are interested. I'm not just saying, hey, go talk to this guy. If he knows you, if you're the one calling, then okay, this guy's interested.
Okay.
It's worth his time to at least, you know, talk to you. I will get that information to you pretty soon.
Okay.
Everybody's saying it's a slam dunk, but a lot of it, you know, in the comments, but most people don't understand what's placed, you know, all the forces involved, all the legalities involved. You just don't go to a lawyer and say, let's sue this guy.
Right.
Well, it just doesn't work that way. There's things that got to be done that cost money.
Right.
Very seldom do law firms take on pro bono or this
Contingency. That's what I was hoping for. Right.
You know, unless it's just something really special, you know. So there's a lot of money involved there. So we'll look into that, and, you know, maybe we'll do update later if something works out. I'm not letting go of this story yet.
Thank you.
I'm not letting go of a lot of stories, but this one is the other ones all have to do with what we do. And this is, you weren't doing what we do. You're just a photographer out making a living and get caught up with a bad cop and a bad police chief and a bad sheriff's department and a bad jail.
Yeah.
Luckily, somebody decided that they couldn't charge you with anything and dropped them. You know, that's probably the most lucky thing you got out of the whole damn thing, because it could have even got worse. You know?
Right. Well, it took a long time. I mean, they offered me, you know, because they charged me with disorderly conduct and the failure to disclose, you know, my information. And they kept offering me, well, you know, we'll let you plead guilty to one and we'll drop the other, and it'd just be like a $200 fine. And they kept kind of trying to sweeten the deal of, well, we'll drop one and reduce the other, you know, and go to a lesser disorderly conduct. And I was like, no, you know.
Yeah, we see that a lot. We see that a lot too, because they want that in place where you've pled guilty to something, even if, you know, that way you can't come back and sue them, or it's very hard to after that.
Right.
They want the conviction on their record so they can say, hey, you know, look at me, I'm hard on crime, and here's my record, and I want a promotion or whatever. And we see that a lot. And a lot of people will do it. One of the cases I went through years ago with the DWI, that, by the way, I hadn't even been drinking. They wanted to do a plea deal, and that didn't work out for them.
Right. But yeah, you know, because it cost me, you know, my lawyer's getting $200 an hour, and it took us, I think, 8 court appearances or something before they dropped it. So, you know, you go, wait a second, that cost me several $1,000s. when I could have pled guilty and paid a $200 fine. So
yeah, $20,000 is a lot of money, and I don't know how much you make, but I can kind of by what we've visited with, you're not rich. You're
right.
not.
No.
You're not living in $1 million home or a $500,000 home. It doesn't look like.
No.
You're just kind of like a lot of us. We're getting by. We have some money, but we're not.
Right.
$20,000 is a lot of money at the point.
Right. No, absolutely. And yeah, it's a lot of money to part with and have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
You know, if I bought a truck, I'd feel okay about it. But
yeah, well, you get the long-term use out of that. You have anything you want to add to it?
No, you know, again, you know, if anybody sees it and wants to email the city council, you know, or the mayor, their email addresses are all on the city website. You know, so I think just trying to keep it in their minds, hearing it from other people, hearing it from more people is always helpful.
Well, I'm gonna ask when I do this for some people to support what you're doing, and I'm not asking for them to give you money or anything. I mean, just, you know, support what you're doing, keep track of what you're doing, watch your video. If they want to feel like they contacting the proper people in your community, the mayor, the council, whatever, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, let them know what you're thinking. Hopefully there'll be more people in the Waterville area,
right,
that will see it and go, wow, you know, maybe we need to get him some support over here to get some changes made. Because it sounds like to me, you've got 3 police departments, 2 are cool and 1 is just outright crazy. You know,
right.
ridiculous.
Well, I guess that is one other thing. So I've started a Facebook page kind of dedicated to discussing the Waterville Police Department. And I've had people contact me through there that have had real similar experiences with Linger. A young man was pulled over for having his radio too loud and was charged with failure to obey, disorderly conduct, you know, and all these things. And when some of the charges were dismissed, then Linger started sitting out inside their home and following his car and so on. And you know, this is almost 10 years ago. And had a girl contact me that had been raped and tried to report it, and they wouldn't take a report, laughed at her. You know, another lady left a comment on my page that she wanted to talk to me and tell her my story, or tell me her story. And by the time I contacted her the next day, she said, man, the police have been sitting out in front of my home. I don't think I want to talk anymore. She said, I just don't want to be involved. So, you
know, that might be best for her. You know, you never know. Sometimes getting it out in the open is the best thing to do. Sometimes
right. Not. But, you know, so you think it's just me. And, you know, a lot of people that have contacted me have said, thank God, you know, somebody finally said something, because they all were afraid to say something, that they felt like they were alone, that it was just their family or just them. And,
well, if you find a story that somebody's willing to talk and they want to talk about it, if I can be of any service, my channel is available. As long as we have enough proof or something to show people,
right.
It's not just a made-up story. You know?
Right. And that's the thing is, you know, they don't keep the body camera footage for very long, so it's only stuff that's happened I think they keep it for 90 days. So a lot of these, you know, I don't have any proof. The people come off being very believable. I don't know why they would contact me and make up a story. But you're right. There's very little proof to really back it up like I have with the videos.
Oh, that was something that we talked about, the videos. You were saying that they only keep the video, some of the video, because they were looking to charge you more? Use it
right.
More?
Yeah, the stuff from the jail that we sent, normally they keep it for 90 days. And within a week of my having been there, we sent what's called a notice to preserve letter, saying that there's possibly going to be a lawsuit in the future and you need to preserve all video. And they only preserved 90 minutes of it. And when I went back and forth with the prosecutor about where's the rest of this video, to where he finally said, the only reason we kept the little bit that we have is because we thought we could maybe find some more charges for you based on the video. And so there was nothing else to charge you with in the rest of the video, so we didn't save it.
Yeah, because They didn't want anything used against them, I guess.
Right, because the thing is, after I got the jumpsuit back on, there was a guy, and you see it in the video. He's the one that's kind of like yelling at me through the glass. He would come in every half hour or so and just grab me by the collar, just kind of, he wasn't beating me up. I would say he was roughing me up. He kind of shoved me against the wall, and just, belittle me. That's still,
I still get these confused, but that would still be considered battery as far from what I
Yeah, right. And there's no reason to do it. There's no reason for him to come in and shove me around. It's just further humiliation going.
And that would have been on video if they would have preserved the
Right, right. And, and I think it's, too, he really liked it because he's about half my size. The idea that he can shove me around, what am I going to do?
You're 6 foot, what?
About 6'7".
Yeah. Well, we can't go audit together. Well, you're not an auditor, but we can't go because I can't audit with anybody taller than me. I'm 6'2", 6'3", depending on how happy I am. If I'm feeling good and I'm standing straight up 6'3", but if I'm just kind of feeling 6'2". All right, I think that's. I think we've covered enough.
All right.
I think I'm going to have a pretty good editing job here because I as we're talking and everything. There's some parts of the other videos I think I'll stick in here, but I'm going to go through this a couple of times, make some notes, do my thing, and I'm glad you joined us here. I hope what I'm doing helps you in some way. And hopefully when we get some of this out, we'll get a lot of people putting it on their Facebooks and Twitters and getting some more information out. And I think I will probably make a statement asking for people to do that. That's a way they can support you. Put the video on on your Facebooks, on your Twitters. You get a couple of people doing that, it'll liven up the views on your channel, my channel. It'll get it seen, and then you got Facebook that'll be seen, and Twitter. So maybe that'll be helpful. But
I hope so.
I'm sorry you went through this, but it helps put the light on just how bad things are in this country. You're kind of it's kind of an extreme case, but it's not as extreme as it could. You could not be standing here anymore, sitting there.
Right. So. And that's the thing. I don't think mine's uncommon, and it's just the thing is when you see the video that I got from the jail, it's kind of a thing where I can look at their other cameras and so on. They've got their own software that comes with. I wasn't the only naked person there that night. There's like 2 or 3 other naked guys. If you look close, the guy in the cell next to me, he's a really dark complected guy, and it's kind of dark. But the guy in the cell next to me that you see in there, he's naked.
Yeah, we got a few comments on that. I think that got past a lot of people because it was your story. They were paying attention to what happened to you, and I didn't put a whole lot of it up. But there was a few people that got it. He's not the only one there naked. What's going on here? There's something going on in that place. In that jail that they like naked guys hanging around. There's a lot of comments about that. But
yeah,
that sounds like to me that sheriff's department's out of control, and I don't care how well that sheriff presents himself in public. If he's running a jail like that, he's got problems.
Right.
So, all right. So, thanks for being here. Hopefully, we can do some good, and I guess we'll see you later.
All right. Well, thank you.